High Guardian Spice. Right. Okay, so you don't know anything about this.
Nope.
So right off the bat, I'm just gonna generally apologize to everyone, um, because we're about to get political. Bwah, 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 bwah. Welcome to Sack's Political Power Hour. All right, so let's talk about the controversies around High Guardian Spice. First off, there's like 4 or 5 of them. We're going to start about the classification of this. Some might notice that High Guardian Spice is in the TV slot instead of the anime slot. Now, allow me to explain. I'm an old, crotchety old man. In my day, we had a term which was Jap anime, which was short for Japanese animation. We used to call all anime Jap anime, and then for whatever reason, people stopped saying Jap anime and they just started saying anime because they got too lazy to say the Jap part of it, right? I don't fully understand the reason for this, but whatever. I guess anime falls off the rolls off the tongue easier. Anyway, important part about that is that because they shortened like Jap anime to just anime, it became very close to the Japanese word, which is also anime, which is used to refer to all animation. Period in Japanese. Now, in the West, anime is traditionally referred to as specifically Japanese animation. Lately, some people have tried to also include anything with anime inspiration or with a sort of anime-esque aesthetic as anime, things like Chinese series, Chinese animation, or things like Avatar as anime. But one, I refuse to do that because I think the more we add to the term anime, the less value the term anime has in general. I think that's silly.
I
And
agree with
it
that.
I also think that the way the word is used, it sort of treats anime as a sort of like medal of quality. Like if you're good enough, like Avatar is not a cartoon, it's so good it's an anime. As if one, all anime are good. And as someone who has seen at least 20 anime, that is not true at all. And it sort of implies that cartoons can't be good. Like it creates this sort of like Japanese animation superiority that I just cannot get behind in general. Um, I had another point about why referring to everything as anime is stupid, but off the top of my head, I can't go any further with it because my brain is turning into Hachima. They stopped saying Japan because Jap was used as slur against Japanese people in World War II. I distinctly remember Dad saying the same story of the old Western name for anime and how my grandfather yelled at him for being racist. I guess. I mean, it was never used in a slur term though, because it was never used as a slur because it was just used to refer to specifically animation and not specifically to Japanese people. But whatever. Um, Anyway, it's created this like modern confusion with the term anime where people think it's a Japanese word and it's not the Japanese word. I'm sorry to tell you that. It specifically refers to Japanese animation. Anyway, yeah, so I think it's really stupid to call literally everything anime. That's why I refuse to acknowledge anything that's not Japanese animation as anime, which includes High Guardian Spice. High Guardian Spice is not anime, it's a cartoon. Um, that's the first point I'm going to make about it. Doesn't really matter. They started saying just anime by late 90s. I know, I remember the transition. Depends how you say it. There's a big difference between Jap anime and Jap anime. You know what? Fair enough. Punctuation's important, I guess. Anyway, other issues with High Guardian Spice that people will say is about the production, because it's a Crunchyroll original. Crunchyroll spent money on this, and one of the a lot of I've seen this argument all the time. People are like, "What is Crunchyroll doing, making its own series? They should be when they should be paying animators better. They're spending money that should be going to animators to make this crap." All right, so let's talk about this. Now, I don't 100% know this for sure, but I'm fairly confident High Guardian Spice was paid out of Crunchyroll's like pocket of its profits. Crunchyroll is a for-profit company. Obviously, they're not doing it for free, which means that they were paying for this anime for themselves. Like, the money that they used to pay for this was not going to be handed to, like, Crunchyroll doesn't pay animators directly. It's all about the production studio. They just give the money to the production studio, and then it's the production studio that pays animators. And most animators and most companies are paid for, like, the cells they animate. I think it's like something ridiculous, like 5 yen, 3 to 5 yen per cell. They're ridiculously underpaid, but it's not like it's Crunchyroll that's underpaying them. It's the studios themselves. If you want to, like, boycott a company for underpaying animators, get prepared to only watch Kyoto Animation anime, because guess what? That's industry standard. Crunchyroll has nothing to do with that. If anything, if you wanted the money, your money, to go directly to animators, guess what? Someone had to animate High Guardian Spice. So, believe it or not, the money that was never going to go to an animator did go to an animator. It's not a Japanese animator. It was the animator of High Guardian Spice. Yeah, your money was never going to go to a Japanese animator. It was never going to happen. It was always Crunchyroll's money in the first place. It's absolutely ridiculous, that complaint. Another complaint people will make is that Crunchyroll sucks as a company, and you shouldn't support Crunchyroll. And Crunchyroll got bought out by Sony, and Sony sucks as a company, so you shouldn't support Sony. And guess what? They're right. Crunchyroll and Sony suck. I can't argue that, and if you don't want to give them your money, that's fine. But let's not make the argument that the company that makes this product sucks, therefore the product sucks. That's not an argument against High Guardian Spice. That's just an argument to not support Crunchyroll or Sony, which, sure, I mean, yeah, they suck. I'm not going to argue with you on that. High Guardian Spice was probably animated in South Korea. I mean, a lot of anime is animated in South Korea, honestly. But we're not going to get into the animation process. Anyway, yeah, another thing people will say is that it had an absolutely disastrous trailer where it showed off an incredibly generic fantasy world, told you almost nothing about its plot or characters, but talked all about its diverse cast of producers. And all it showed off was a bunch of, like, overweight white women with multicolored hair that basically just looked like fighting game character palette swaps. People are like, that's a terrible trailer. And yeah, the trailer was complete dog shit. And yeah, it's one of the things people absolutely despise on the internet for some bizarre reason is hypocrisy. So they're saying it's diverse, but it's not diverse at all. Look at its actual producers. These people are awful. And yeah, I mean, it's a shit trailer. I'm not gonna argue that, and it does make the setting look super generic. And I mean, guess what? The setting's super generic. I'm not gonna defend the setting for High Guardian Spice. um, and another thing people say is that when you look into the producers behind the show, they're absolutely, like, terrible. Like, there's a hyper SJW. Some of them are, like, open misandrists. Like, just generally shitty people. And if you don't want to support shitty people, or shitty companies for that matter, obviously you don't want to support High Guardian Spice, and I can't make any arguments against that. I think that's a fair enough point. Dyed hair is a thing that is weirdly hated. I don't know why. It's nothing worth getting angry about. It's, like, associated with, like, Twitter at this point. Like Twitter SJW types, which is, honestly, let's be honest, it's the people who made High Guardian Spice. I don't have anything against hair dye either, but I'm just levying the complaints at it that people have complained about it. But yeah, the producers of the show seem like real shitheads, just generally not good people. And if you don't want to support them as creators, that's totally fine. That doesn't say anything about the quality of the show. Obviously, that just says that behind the scenes, the entire show, High Guardian Spice, is an absolutely perfect storm of crappy development. But we all know that I am all for separating the art from the artist. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of really crappy producers out there, and if you were only watching stuff by good producers, you would be watching almost nothing. Um, So, how is High Guardian Spice as an actual show? Funny, back when my mom was aged, dyed hair was associated with punks. Yeah, no, yeah. Same thing when I was young. Yeah, High Guardian Spice is fine. I liked it, actually. It's actually not that bad. Let's go through a few points. Number one, the trailer shows that the setting is super generic and seems heavily like it's biting off of Ruby's bullet, and I can't argue with that. The setting is very generic, and it does feel like it's biting off Ruby's bullet. I would argue this is better than Ruby, though. Ruby's a goddamn nightmare of a show. But yeah. So that's definitely an issue. There's one scene where one of the teachers is revealed as like transgender, and that scene gets like memed on super hard. And that scene does definitely feel ham-fisted. I think. Now, this isn't really my fight to fight, but I will say that I think the truly biggest issue with that teacher has the main purpose of them seems to be to guide someone else on their journey to possibly also being trans. And I think, if anything, just acting as a sort of like trans mentor figure as being like your only real purpose in the plot, I think that might be more problematic. But this isn't my fight to fight, and I really don't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other. It doesn't come off as super propagandaist. It does kind of treat you like an idiot because it feels the need to explain what a trans person is, but whatever, who cares? The scene's over pretty quickly, and the main focus of the episode is actually that character's relationship with the main character's mom. So it's really not that distracting. A lot of people will talk about some of the like dialogue for some of the characters as being terrible, but a lot of the clips I've seen that they're citing, like, look how shitty this dialogue is from characters that are intentionally supposed to give shitty dialogue. Like, that's the point of the scene, and a lot of people will be like, look how shitty the voice acting of this character is, and they'll show Slime Boy, and that's the point of Slime Boy. Like, it's a lot of the clips I see where people complain about High Guardian Spice are people being like, look how shitty this is, when they don't realize they're not laughing at the show, they're laughing with the show. They're just showing they're showing clips of the show doing exactly what it's trying to do, and then they're like, look at this, and it's like, yup, that's what the show was getting at. Wow, you good job. You somehow think this is a negative flaw of the show when it's actually just landing its points. Now, don't get me wrong. High Guardian Spice is not a great show. Honestly, I would say, like I've mentioned before, I've seen greatness in shows. High Guardian Spice has no potential to be a great show. It will always be about this level. It could probably get a little better if they like come into their own a little bit more, but this is never gonna be a 9 out of 10 show, a 10 out of 10 show. This will always be at around this level. I definitely feel like a lot of the like backdoor politics and a lot of the trailers and the preconceptions have definitely impacted the enjoyment of the show itself. As for what I actually like think about the show, oh yeah, the like short dwarf girl, she's not much of a character. She doesn't have much of a plot in the plot. I don't remember her name. That's probably not great news. But I do remember the other characters well, and they're pretty decent characters overall, I would say. Not anything, to write home about. Just assume that nothing in this show is... I'm not going to say that after every sentence. Just assume nothing in this show is anything to write home about. How about that? But yeah, I mean, I kind of like everyone well enough. The main character can get obnoxious, but that's kind of the point. That's in one of her intended character flaws. One thing I will say is that there's some decent representation. I don't want to say that the representation is good. I'll say it's diverse. They definitely tick some boxes in this. What I will say is that the main character's best friend, Sage, has a sort of thing for her, and the main character at the very least has only shown interest in boys, and I would honestly respect the hell out of the show if the main character is straight but her best friend is a lesbian with a thing for her, because I think it would be add to a really interesting dynamic where like the main character has to sort of support her friend in her journey, but her friend also has to learn to get over the main character and like sort of come into her own. I think that'd be a really interesting character dynamic where they sort of have to like reorganize the relationship, and honestly there was a little bit of that in part of the season where they sort of have a falling out. There's also one character who's revealed to probably be trans. I'm going to refer to them, I'm going to try to refer to them as like gender neutral for most of this, because it's not officially confirmed whether they're transitioning or not. I'm not really sure the intended pronouns for this, so I'm just going to try not to use them. But they were referred to male throughout almost the entire show, so if I mess up, I guess forgive me. But honestly, this I think was foreshadowed pretty well, because I saw it coming like 3 episodes ahead of time, and looking back, there was evidence from it from like episode like 3 or something. So I think it was actually led into pretty decently. I'm not going to, again, I don't want to talk about the quality of representation, because this show didn't represent my demographic at all. But at the very least, it was led into well enough. I think the biggest issue is that character, was led by the other trans teacher, and it almost seemed like like the trans teacher was just there to lead the character on their journey. But I was screaming for like 3 episodes how the teacher really needs to fucking talk to them. Everything you said earlier could have been avoided if it was pitched anywhere but Crunchyroll. Oh, sure, yeah. Well, no, I think the production crew would have still gotten shit on no matter who hosted it. Because, I mean, yeah, from what I've heard, they're pretty shit people. But like them being shit people doesn't really reflect the quality of the show. The plot itself, this might be a spoiler. If they make a season 2, this might be a spoiler for High Guardian Spice, but nothing has been revealed yet, so I'm just going to make my prediction. But yeah, what I suspect is happening in the show is we find out through various sources that natural sources of magic seem to be being drained, like the elf woods and the healing springs. And what I suspect happens is the show has this sort of dichotomy between old magic and new magic, and I think that what is happening is that new magic, which is being created by like the witch capital, is either created using natural mana sources, magic sources, or drains natural magic sources. And this is plots of Tales of Vesperia. I don't know. This hasn't been confirmed. This is my own speculation. But what I assume is that the entire show is a metaphor for the evils of capitalism and saving the environment. That's my guess. That sounds like something that the creators of the show would think of, and that's what I feel like it is leading to, but none of this was led into in the slightest. Anyway, basic idea. Everyone in the show wants to become a guardian. It has the same problem as Ruby. We have no idea what the hell a guardian is. It seems to be like a weird hybrid between a scout and a sort of like a soldier, like a guardian, like the literal protector of the environment. But we don't know what the job is. We don't know what it entails. The most we get out of it is what the oath is. It has the same problem as being a hunter in Ruby. We have no fucking idea what the hell what they're trying to do, which isn't great. The setting can be pretty generic. I don't think any of the characters are necessarily nailed in any regard, but a lot of the complaints are exactly what the show is trying to do. It has some actually comedic moments. I actually legitimately laughed at certain parts. Everyone hates Slime Boy's voice acting, but that's the point of Slime Boy. I kind of like Slime Boy. Slime Boy's kind of cool. Honestly, I just think the show is generally decent. And I love the bully girl who turned out to not be a bully by the end of it. Amaryllis, I think her name is. She's great. She's just generally fun. A hunter kills stuff and goes around and kills other stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's the same problem. I don't know what a guardian is. The name of the show is based on the main 4 girls team that they form. High Guardian Spice is their version of RWBY. Like that's their Ruby basically. But yeah, the main character's mom goes off on a mission and then disappears. Ooh, where did she go? Ooh, you'll never know. We kind of know. We kind of know where she is. There's a little hint at the end. But yeah, and honestly, I kind of liked the journey of the one character that may or may not be transitioning. I actually thought that that was sort of interesting. Yeah, what I will say about this is, if there is a second season of High Guardian Spice, I would unironically watch it. And I kind of hope that there is a second season, because I am interested in where the show is going. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not great, and it will never be great. It does not have greatness in it. But I honestly, I think it's pretty decent, and I think a lot of the hate it gets is generally undeserved. I think if this was made by like, if they didn't have that really crappy trailer, maybe if you didn't necessarily know who was behind it, and if it wasn't, like Maid said, if it wasn't Crunchyroll and Sony, I don't, if this was a Cartoon Network show that kind of hit its creators, I think there is an audience for this show, and I don't think it would get hit nearly as hard. I think a lot of the issues with this show that people have is the production. I don't. It's look, this show has gotten worse. This show has gotten worse ratings than worse shows than it. So, yeah, High Guardian Spice. It's pretty decent. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I'd say rent it if you don't mind supporting undeniably shitty people.
All right.
And again, I'm sorry I dragged you into this war, John.
No,
Let the record show John said nothing during this. John kept his mouth shut like a smart boy.
I haven't seen it, and I just want Sony to revert the rights back from Spider-Man to Marvel Studios, so we don't have to worry about that anymore.
I believe High Guardian Spice is High Guardian. I don't specifically know, but its IMDb score is like 1.5 or something, 1.6. Like it's like 1.3. No, oh yeah, 1.1. Yeah. Yeah, 1.4 in total. It's like one of the worst rated things. Period.
Interesting.
And it doesn't deserve it, because there are worse things. I have seen worse things. There are things that deserve this way harder. Anyway, yeah, High Guardian Spice. That's my war. I liked it. I've seen crappier. I've seen crappier shows. It doesn't deserve all this hate. It's not a damn anime though.
But yeah, 552 people have rated it at a 1.4. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's literally a hate mob. Like, I hate to say, it's just a hate mob. I guarantee. Like, I'm sure most people haven't even seen the damn show, and the people that do see the show, the criticisms I see levied against it are just asinine.
Yeah, well,
Like I said, like, they think they're laughing at the show, but they're just laughing with it, and they're too stupid to realize.
yeah, they do that with a lot of stuff. Like Eternals got attacked with that same shit too. I'll get more into that later, but
Yeah. I'm willing to move on from High Guardian Spice. I've said my piece. I've talked about it. And I think I've acknowledged the valid criticisms at least. So I'm willing to move on.